Nietzsche was a genius, and the genius destroyed him, his own genius. And this happens to many geniuses, but in different ways. A genius that is being recognized by people and therefore gets validation in his lifetime is threatened by becoming grandiose. Albert Einstein is an example of a genius that was recognized and did not go insane and did not become grandiose. He could withstand the danger of being swallowed up by grandiosity. Nietzsche, however, was a very special kind of genius, and his genius was that he knew he was a genius. He was aware of that, which is grandiose in itself. So, in other words, there are thousands of people who believe that they are geniuses and that they are grandiose, but they are not. But the special thing about Nietzsche was that he knew he was a genius and he was right. And nobody validated him, nobody saw it. So he did not get recognized, nobody approved about his genius, maybe a few a few people maybe only, if at all. So he was never getting any recognition, real recognition. It's just today that people start understanding the value of his message, and he is the most discussed, one of the most influential philosophers, if not the most influential philosopher of the last 1,000 years. And we always tend to forget that he is not only a great philosopher, but also a great psychologist that looked very deep into the human mind. And he is just as much one of the best poets. If you know about what poetry is and how dense language can be used, Nietzsche was a philologist, so he zoomed in on the meaning of just one word, and he understands the multiple layers that words can have. And on the next level, he was a poet, and he leveraged all of this knowledge and understanding to give his message more impact. So he is all of that, therefore he is a genius. And he was aware of that. And he did not get recognition. So if he would have got the same recognition and he was celebrated like Wagner. Wagner was a musician, he was composing music, and he was celebrated in a grandiose way, so he was a superstar of that time. And this person, Wagner, was living in a grandiose way, therefore, you know. But Nietzsche was not in that spotlight, in the same spotlight. But if people would have recognized the greatness of his message and he would have been celebrated like a superstar, then this could have swallowed him up, destroyed him, just the same way. No, in a different way, because then his narcissistic, everybody carries a form of narcissism in himself, then he might have been consumed by his narcissism. He would have become detached of the world because he would have internalized a sense of grandiosity and the whole world. He would have become a god, and therefore he would have detached from that world that he suffered from, and therefore he gained this great insights over the world and over the nature of people. By the way, I personally was baffled, or not baffled, but a little bit, I found it strange that he did not describe narcissism or singled it out as a danger for humanity, because he had these deep insights. And he found out about, he created the concept of slave morality and resentment, which is basically a form of prediction, in my opinion, about the victimhood mentality and competitive victimhood in today's society, and also has to do with narcissism as well. And at the same time, he kind of admired people with psychopathic traits, such as or narcissistic traits, such as Wagner or Napoleon Bonaparte and other strong people. And I think he never really figured out whether or what to admire in this 100%. So sometimes he was really admiring the strength of these people and radically promoted the execution of pure power, no matter the cost of it, which is cruel and brutal. And this was not his real nature, by the way. He was an intuitive introvert. He was a very calm and sensitive person. But in his philosophy, he was swinging this hammer, laying waste to everything that came before him and after him. So there was an ambivalent thing about this promotion of this cruel masculine form of thriving for power and force, cruel in a cruel way, this tough, this kind of toxic father figure that is, reigning, ruling, conquering in a cruel, brutal, and not second-guessing way, something like that. But then he also had tendencies to be more compassionate and loving and understanding. He definitely has these soft, emotional, sensitive sides. I don't want to say feminine. Feminine and Nietzsche does not go well. And he is oscillating between these, in my opinion. So the Übermensch, in my opinion, is a concept of Nietzsche too. And the Übermensch, in my opinion, I don't want to get a picture here, is not cruel and not a toxic father figure. The Übermensch is also full of forgiveness. So Nietzsche is very aware of the fact that any great personality needs the quality to take in a lot of hate of the whole people around him, needs a lot of strength and resilience and forms of self-supply or self-validation, cannot rely on external validation. So he never he never made it clear what it is that he is promoting or seeing as a solution. It had to do with being powerful and the will to power, but sometimes it seemed to be cruel, and this is also why Nietzsche gets so much misunderstanding. It is not cruel what he means. It's not cruel and cold and self-serving. He was also aware that his philosophy is not a finished product. He saw himself as a destructive force that destroys the things caging people in moral constructs where they can't even move in any way anymore, because it's all about reasoning and thinking and doing the right things and living as a human being as concepts, which does not make sense. A human being cannot be conceptualized because life cannot be conceptualized. Life is always a mixture of light and shadow, pain and joy, love and hate, if you wish. And concepts of right or wrong, black or white, moral systems are always polarizing and are opposing life. They are opposing life. And Nietzsche understood this. This is why he was a liberator of this, and he was going to extremes to destroy this cage that has been built over thousands of years by philosophers that, in his opinion, emasculated humanity itself or took away the courage and the innocence and the self-agency that people need to change something. You know, nothing is allowed anymore. Everything can be discussed to the death and be proven right or wrong or be questioned, and it, you know, we lost the contact to the pure forces of life, to the very animalistic, pure forces of creation, rooted, by the way, in libido and destrudo, which are the same. Life drive, death drive. Okay? And he wanted to reconnect us to these forces. And he was not there to connect us to the death drive only and to destroy everything. He understood that in order to be able to create, we need to get away from the purely cognitive reconstructions of reason and moral and right or wrong, this conceptual thinking of philosophers who for hundreds of years have been locked down in dark chambers and have written down as a kind of a revenge for a frustrated life, their philosophy. This is how he pictured it, okay? And he said, all right, you know what, we need to destroy all of this, question all of this, and start out new, more creative. Therefore, he loved the early Greek mythology and philosophy because it was not based on guilt and had not the same moral system as the Christian ideology has as an imprint. But yeah, Nietzsche went to extremes, you know. If he did not question parts of Christianity, He questioned all Christianity, and so I'm not of 100% aligned with him. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm not a follower of another person. I am an individual. I have my own opinion, and I can differentiate between ideologies, and in my opinion, Nietzsche has made great strides for us, made great insights, and I love him for being so uncompromising and to being so straight. I understand that he was so limitless in the way he looked through the psychology of people and philosophy and mankind, because he knew if he would frame his message too soft, it wouldn't have the necessary impact. He is a waymaker for other philosophers that come after him. He wants to free mankind from becoming caught up in endless reasoning, analyzing, moralizing, fuck-upizing, okay? And therefore I love him. So I understand his cruelty and destruction as his form of making way for love, for forms of love, he did this because he loves humanity. He wants to create something better than he saw it as a dead end that we're going in. We're moving into a dead end of moralizing endlessly, framing and twisting and turning some cognitive concepts, but we cannot forget that we are living beings that ultimately are governed by primal forces that cannot change in hundreds or thousands of years. We have been created through a process of evolution that took millions of years. Mankind is just 100,000 years old, and to adapt to something new and different, which is the philosophical concepts and moral concepts and all these concepts, would take it. First of all, we don't adapt to that. And second, if we could adapt to it, it would take thousands of years. But it's simply, he just shared awareness on this, so that we see this, so that we see that all this these moral cages that we build, and concepts and ideas of what is humanity, what is individuality, what is identity, and so on, all these concepts ultimately don't fit to describe a being that is governed by forces, by the forces of life drive and death drive. Ultimately, these are the pure forces that drive us. And if we try to be something different, we feel guilty and alienated of our own nature. And Nietzsche did not want us to feel like that. He saw the early Greeks as people who lived without feeling guilty or ashamed for their natural drives. Therefore, they had a different moral and virtue system. Okay? They had multiple gods that all were flawed. All these gods of the Greek mythology were flawed. They were intriguing. They were fighting each other. They were lying. They were failing. They had their own troubles and problems. And this is, they are not these perfect images that Christian value systems created of our God and Jesus. Don't get me wrong. I will go down this path probably on my channel with Jesus, and I like the idea of Jesus. I think it's very valuable, and even Nietzsche. Ironically, by the way, Nietzsche is saving Jesus for me. I repeat it, Nietzsche is saving Jesus for me, and I will go down this path with you. Nietzsche himself was very impressed with the figure of Jesus. It's a concept so deep that even Nietzsche could probably not deconstruct the idea of Jesus or the person of Jesus. So that's another topic. So Nietzsche was ultimately destroyed by his own genius that was not validated within his lifetime. Therefore, he was not threatened by becoming narcissistic and grandiose, but his danger was to become psychotic, and as the opposite of narcissistic, it means that you externalize. The narcissist internalizes. It's a narcissistic reaction to become godlike in the grandiose perception. But Nietzsche was not threatened by this danger. The psychotic solution for this problem. Am I driving right? Holy shit, I hope yes. Fuck no. Alright, it's dangerous. Okay, I'm going wrong here. That's okay. No, I'm going right. That's great. Alright, the solution for him was to externalize it. The meaning. He was not rooted the same way as Carl Gustav Jung. Why am I saying this? Sorry. Nietzsche was an intuitive introvert, just like Carl Gustav Jung was. But Carl Gustav Jung was rooted in his family. He had a strong woman. And he also was rooted in his work as a psychologist. While Nietzsche was not so strongly rooted in a worldly life, and he was not validated, but he made the same kind of deep insights in the human mind and probably the collective subconsciousness. Therefore, it took him off the rails. He could not digest it. And it led to kind of psychosis. He was probably fighting psychosis. Something like that, I assume. Which means his impressions, his suffering, it took him over. And he was, I think what was tearing him apart was that he could not find out whether he should glorify the strength of these masculine idols he proposed as strong personalities, and how hard and how strong should one be, and how vulnerable and emotional and understanding and empathetic should a person be. I think he could not decide on that, and I think this took him this has torn him apart, is my opinion. Yeah. So I have to focus now on the way I'm driving. Yeah, I just made a small entertaining video for you guys. I have one more thing to say about Nietzsche, probably, if I can recall what I wanted to say also. Or we keep this for another video. Yeah, I think that's it. Stay safe. And thank you for watching. Yeah, okay, what I wanted to say about him is that he was fully aware that he is not creating a finished product. And yeah, I find it most profound that he had a way to self-assess himself so precisely. So he knew he's a genius. He knew that his philosophy is not a finished product. You need to imagine his fellow philosophers that were more grandiose than him try to create finished products. They create a philosophy that stands for itself. They don't rely on other philosophers. And this Nietzsche is making a philosophy so great and so deep looking back in time and into the future. He understands that he is a genius, and he understands that his philosophy is not finished but making way for others, and he counts on others. This combination is so insanely crazy. It's insane. It's insane that he made this great self-assessment about himself without having any external validation for it. You need to understand how much suffering it must bring to a person to understand all of this and live this life. It's not a surprise that he did not make it past 35 years, man. Anyway, stay safe. I'm out.